We are very proud to announce UMP Trading is an official partner with a proven profit track record.
Yeah, if you want great returns on your investments, be sure to check out UMP Trading.
Hello, welcome back to our channel, American Ultra Stock. Here we are today, Braden and I, bringing to you guys the only segment that we have as a regular here, the Stock Watch. Braden, a lot of action over the weekend and over the week as well for all Americans playing in Europe and at home. We never know. But who caught your eye as a player whose stock went up and performed better than you expected?
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned at home because I don't think we've ever had an MLS player on this list. But I'm going to change that today. I'm going to have my first one. I'm going for Cole Bassett. Yeah, obviously it's been a rough couple of years for him. He had a failed stint in the Netherlands with Feyenoord and then Fortuna Sittard. And then even when he came back to the Rapids, he was initially pretty underwhelming, I would say. But recently his fortune seemed to have changed. He scored last weekend to help the Rapids win their first game in what seems like forever against the traitor Noah Buck and the Revolution. And then, I mean, this week as well, midweek against the Sounders, he scored another goal. On Saturday against the Timbers, he got an assist. I mean, they did lose both those games because they're one of the worst teams I've ever seen. But yeah, at least Cole Bassett's playing well, and it's nice to see him get some confidence back, get some form back after a really, really rough stint in the Netherlands, honestly. Like, it just didn't really go as he would have hoped at all. And it's nice to see him try to get his career back on track.
Yeah, this is not scripted, by the way, people. Honestly, I had no idea Braden was going to go for Cole Bassett when I mentioned a domestic player there. But that's a good pick. I'm going for a bit of an unorthodox one for the majority of the fan base. I mean, I talk about him a lot on the channel, Maurice Malone. I think it's nice that he got a goal again. I mean, 3 goals, 2 assists so far for him. Yeah, some of those goals were in the cup, which I kind of just write it off. But this time it was in the Swiss league, which is nice. Basel, they're having a they're having a bit of a rough year, and I expected him to start playing for them, getting more minutes since their firepower was non-existent, and that's happening. He's getting more minutes now, and yeah, it's really nice. I mean, prolific goal scorer so far. He scored a lot last year in the Austrian league. And I mean, it's about his level, and I think it's nice he gets to stock up, especially since Sargent's injured. We don't know. PFOC is always a hit or miss. I think he's a name that may be lurking around for a beastie type of player. And yeah, I pick him. Now, who did not impress you, Braden? I think we have a few players to choose from, but who are you listing first?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple obvious ones, but I'm going to go for a bit of an unorthodox one first. It's a player who's been in Europe under the radar for a while now, Christian Kappes. He's been at Brøndby for a while, but he wasn't wanted by them this season. He almost didn't get re-signed, but they ended up sending him out on loan to Molde. Kind of like Justin Jay, who was also at Brøndby and was sent out because they didn't want him either. But at least Che has, made the most of his loan move. He's been playing pretty well. Kappes, on the other hand, still hasn't played a single minute for Molde, despite the fact that there are multiple competitions. They have to rotate the squad a little bit. They had their first Europa League game this week, and he still stayed on the bench unused. On Sunday in the league game, he wasn't even on the bench, wasn't even in the squad at all. It's a bit disappointing to see him kind of cast aside by several clubs. I mean, if you're going on loan to get game time, the last thing you want is to be left out of the matchday squad and just not being used at all. So yeah, his stock has to go down from it.
Yeah, he's on that Ethan Horvath grind where you don't even make match day. Pretty sad, but anyways, my first one to pick, I'm going for an obvious one, Malik Tillman, and I'm going for him because I think he's the one that the stock goes down. I don't know if from a national team. I think for a national team as well. I mean, this guy is a professional, and to oversleep, I mean, I don't even know how this even happens. These guys usually have roommates. We're never going to know exactly what went on, but the fact that the coach was adamant on keeping him out of the matchday squad and basically waste the spot and then even have him on the bench shows a lot. And it's just not nice because he was starting to get minutes. He was starting to solidify himself with PSV, and then something like this comes around. I hope that they resolve this, but ridiculous. So unprofessional. Such a bad look on him. And I don't know how this even happens. How do you oversleep? You're a professional athlete. This is the only commitment that you have to play twice a week at most. And I mean, it makes no sense at all. It makes no sense at all. It's a ridiculous situation. I don't think that I've ever seen this before. Players have missed match day because of oversleeping, but Malik somehow did it. And yeah, stocks down, definitely. A ridiculous situation to put yourself in. Only got himself to blame. But yeah, on a brighter note, who's your next player to get the stock up, Braden?
Yeah, and just quickly about Malik. I mean, I understand a little bit like oversleeping for training, maybe. I mean, it's still kind of inexcusable, but for a game, it is unprecedented. And I think this is kind of the issue with our national team as a whole, the mentality problems. I mean, we've seen it with Weston McKennie last year. This is why we need players like Tim Weeman. Honestly, I think it's why Greg kept calling up all the MLS lifers, because we do need experience around them to guide these younger players and help their mentality get right. Because we've seen last year, all of our players almost had really poor seasons in Europe, and this year they're learning and they're making good transfers and they're having a lot better seasons than last year. But kind of going off track there, my second player whose stock went up is going to be Reggie Cannon, and I think this might have been the best week in general for any player, maybe the whole season for an American. I mean, he finally found a club after he left Boa Vista in the summer due to unpaid wages. Signed for QPR in the championship, who have another American, Charlie Kelman, so he'll get integrated in with, you know, someone from the same nationality, which is always nice. They're at 18th right now on the table. I mean, not too great, but also, you know, not in the relegation zone, so you know, it could be worse. And he feels like a position of need for them, probably the position they need the most at right back. And he should be able to get his career back on track in England. And the most important thing is that he has a club now. Kind of a similar situation that I mentioned earlier in the Stockwatch episode about Joel Senora and Alan Senora. Just getting a club is the most important thing for these free agents. And I mean, yeah, I expect him to play really well in the championship. Whether this actually boosts his USMNT stock, I'm not sure. After what he said about Greg, he'll always be a national hero for that. But maybe, hopefully, Greg will be gone. He can make a return. Because honestly, I've seen a lot of our fans maybe wanting to experiment with a 3-back formation, and I think he might honestly be one of our best players for that formation because he can play right back and also center back in a back three.
Yeah, I mean, you don't know how much I want Reggie to do well and be undeniable by the end of the season. I don't think it will happen, but I hope he's undeniable to the point where Greg has to call him back. But I don't know if that will happen. I mean, we're seeing John Brooks perform week in, week out, and Greg still doesn't even says that he needs to improve on a few things. But that's a really good shout. Second player that I'm picking, Pepe, another forward. I think that this is going to sound bad, but partly because of how Balogun's weekend went over, I think Pepe's stock goes even a little bit extra up because this is a guy that's not going to get that many minutes, honestly, because he has De Jong, who's a cult hero at PSV. But that's the second game that De Jong doesn't score. Pepe comes on and scores, delivers. I think it's nice. He made the most out of his chance. It's nice to see a lot of comments on the PSV IG as well, with a lot of fans saying that, hey, you can't fault the guy for wanting to score with a penalty. The narrative kind of switched again, and it's nice, really nice for him to get it going with the limited amount of time that he has. He's scoring. It's really similar to his position with the national team, where he's not the starter, but he capitalizes on the chances that he has. So yes, stocks up, and it's nice that he seems to have a mentality that is needed to cut it at the top level. He doesn't get discouraged by lack of minutes as a starter. So picking him. Who are you choosing for a stock down, Braden?
Yeah, my second stock down player is a player kind of in a similar situation to Christian Kappas. It's Georgi Mihailovic. And I don't think this is the first time I mentioned him in stock down. I think he's going to become a recurring theme here on Stockwatch in a bad way. And I mean, yeah, I mentioned in the past, I think when I mentioned him before on this series, that he has been given chances by AZ Alkmaar, but he's failed to capitalize on them, which is why he ultimately was not a starter for them and was a super sub role. But now his chances seem to have run out, and he's been completely unused in their last 3 games, including their 2 games that were this week, with their league win 3-0 over Pek Zwolle, and so a good win there that he didn't contribute to at all. And in the Europa Conference League, one of the most embarrassing losses I've ever seen. Up 3-0 at halftime to a tiny Bosnian club. I'm not even going to try to pronounce their name because I messed it up very badly. But up 3-0 at halftime, end up losing 4-3. And even in a situation like that, the manager still doesn't trust him to come on and try to maintain the lead, save the game after they went down. It's really concerning for me because I think he has shown the talent. He showed in MLS that he should be able to play at this kind of level. And it's a little concerning, honestly, I think, for MLS that players like him are going over to leagues like the Eredivisie, which theoretically we should be on par with, and failing. So hopefully he can prove me wrong the rest of the season. It's still a lot of time, but I think he's going to be on stock down a lot.
Yeah, Georgie, I'm maybe harsh here, but I kind of given up on him with the hopes that I had prior to his move to Europe. I had a certain level of expectation, and he's proven to be pretty underwhelming in regards to that expectation. I think he will be a recurring theme on the stock down. I agree with that. A player that won't be, though, and already made our stocks up before, is Balogun, but I can't not include him into this list. I mean, 2 penalties that, not to say they're completely wasted, or one of them was a nice save, but you should be putting it away. You should be, I think that if you're not even a world-class forward, if you want to be reliable, a good striker, you need to put away pens. Every once in a while to miss them, it's not okay, but it's understandable. But to miss 2 in the same match, I feel bad for him because obviously that's not what he wanted. But the comments too from the fans were pretty brutal. They were borderline disgraceful in my opinion. But at the same time, if he was playing for Paraná and missed 2 penalties, I'm pretty sure I would be going wild too. So, I have to put Balogun there, but I think it's just a hiccup. It's not. I know he seems like a pretty sound guy. He won't be affected by it, but I gotta pick him there. It's an obvious choice. I can't not include him there. Brighter side, Braden, who's your last player to be on the stock up?
Yeah, to be honest, though, the comments that Balogun got, I honestly thought they were going to be a lot worse. So I think they're pretty understandable, honestly. I understand the frustration from the fans, and I do think we've spoken a lot about mentality this video. I think how he performs next week is going to show a lot about his mentality and his character. And I think if he can bounce back from this, it could honestly make him a better player. It could be a great learning experience for him. But that's a huge if. We don't know much about his mentality yet. Hopefully it's strong enough. But my last player who's stocking up is going to be Yunus Musa. He finally made his breakthrough for AC Milan after he initially struggled for minutes a little bit. Integrating as a new signing from almost relegated La Liga side, it's kind of understandable. It's a huge jump. I think we mentioned it on the channel in the past. It's a really big jump to make. And I was a little skeptical at first, but he looked really good against Newcastle in the Champions League. I think he was definitely the best super sub that they had. I think he changed the game a lot. We really started to threaten. Him and Pulisic had a nice little link up as well. And then over the weekend, making his first start against Hellas Verona in not a great win, but a win nonetheless, getting a clean sheet, starting at right wing back, out of position, showing his versatility, which has always been a key thing. He was a right mid initially at Valencia, shifted into the center for the national team, and even at right wing now. I don't know what it is with American center mids and playing right wing, but clearly this is what Italian managers have in mind for our midfielders. But yeah, I think he looked really good in both games. He was one of the better players in both, and also as I'm not going to say a bonus because you never want to see injuries, but Rade Krunic, another center midfielder, should be out for about a month due to an injury he picked up this weekend, which automatically moves Musa up in the pecking order a little bit and should guarantee him some more minutes. And if he can keep performing like this, honestly, I think we could see him in the starting lineup sooner rather than later on a permanent basis.
Absolutely. I'm also another person who was a little bit skeptical about this move, but I'll just say this: if Musa keeps on playing like this, like he has, he's better than Loftus-Cheek, in my opinion. He is a better player. I think he can actually be a better player than Loftus-Cheek and slot in. He'll be a starter by the end of the season if he plays like this. I'm really, really high on him now. I thought he would look really good, really impressive. Partly because I haven't seen him play well for such a long time, but yeah, really nice to include Musa there. Now, for my last player whose stock went up, I'm going for another midfielder, a little bit of a unknown one, flying under the radar. He used to have a lot of hype, Alex Mendes. I think it's really nice that he got some minutes. He's a sub, obviously, but they're playing Primera Liga, which I think is a good level to be developed. Still 23. I don't know how realistic his chances of being included with the USMNT are in the future, but it's nice. He got an assist there. It has to be a stock up. An assist with the Primera Liga, they're 15th in the table. I think that's respectable. Just coming, Vizela is not a huge club, so it's nice that they're sort of surviving there, hanging on, and to see him included, getting some minutes and registering an assist is really nice. Hopefully, it's a sign of things to come, and I really like him. I think he's a really good player. I know he's not USMNT level, but I like him. I think he's a good player. Probably Gold Cup bench level. I think that should be something you could be aiming for. So yeah, I choose him there. Now, what's the last player to make your stocks down list, Braden?
Yeah, my last stock down player is going to be one of our most important players for the national team. It's going to be Tim Weah. And it's not necessarily due to him, but Weston McKennie has come in and taken his spot out of position too. I mean, they're both kind of out of position at right wing back. I don't know what the obsession with Italian clubs is and playing our players there, but clearly that is where they shine. And McKennie's done really well. I almost had him in my stock up, honestly. He's been really good at that role. He looks like a completely new player compared to last season, and it's really nice to see that. But not nice for Weah, who now in the second time in as many seasons has been kicked out of the starting lineup. And I'm just kind of wondering what position is he going to pick next, because at Lille, he was a right winger. He got kicked out of the lineup. He had to move to left back and right back. Now he's at, Juventus playing right wing back. He got kicked out. What's next? Center back? Goalie? Who knows? But yeah, all jokes aside, I mean, it's not great to see him, especially as someone who had such a great preseason, honestly, maybe the best out of all of our players, to be kicked out so quickly. And just reduced to 15-20 minute cameos off the bench where there's not really that much time to impress. I mean, I don't really see a way back from this, honestly, unless Allegri wakes up and puts McKennie where he belongs in the center of midfield, but I don't think that's going to happen. I mean, you know how Allegri is. He plays terrorist ball. So, yeah, I don't see a way back for this quickly from Weah, and it's concerning a little bit for me.
Yeah, definitely a little bit concerning, especially because this is the guy that we call upon to be our starting right winger for the majority. I think is a consensus with the fan base. He's not going to be playing there, and he's not going to be playing, period. So, yeah, definitely concerning there. And you're right. I don't think Allegri is going to change it. He likes West there, and yeah, really weird, but who knows. Last player to make my list, not really his fault, sort of is, minimally. Gio Reyna, I have to put in there. The guy still doesn't have any minutes. I feel so bad. I think he's such a good player. I can truly say I think that behind Pulisic, he's the most talented player we have. Definitely the highest ceiling, but he never gets minutes. It's a little bit frustrating. Obviously on my part for just wanting to see him play. And yeah, just really, I thought he'd get at least a few minutes in garbage time, just like Weah is probably going to get. So I would like to see him get some minutes at least. And yeah, I hope that Gio gets fit with all of this talk about him and Greg finally moving on, ready to be called up for next camp. I would like to see him get a few minutes before next camp. The last thing is for him to get injured while playing with the national team again. But time for our picks for the week. Who's on your stock watch as the main one, and who's your sleeper pick, Braden?
Yeah, just quickly on Gio, I do want to say, I think I mentioned this in the group chat. I think it's all right, honestly. I like the fact that they're taking it slow with him and being very careful. Obviously, it would be nice to see him get some minutes, maybe a brief cameo when they were down 2-0 to PSG in the Champions League. But I mentioned a point to you guys, obviously not on camera, but it seems like he just can't play games back to back. When he was being used as a sub for Dortmund last season, at like the second half of last season, he was playing his best football. He was in his best form, and he wasn't getting injured. He was staying relatively healthy, and he had a great goal assist to minute ratio. I mean, you saw in the final game of the season, he came off the bench, got 2 assists. And as soon as the summer hit, he played 2 games in a row for the USMNT and immediately got injured again. So I think he's a player that we need to take things extremely slow with, and I think a super sub role might be necessary for him. But moving into my players to watch for next week, my main one is going to be Austin Trusty, because if any of you guys saw that Sheffield United game from this weekend, oh my god. 8-0 loss to Newcastle, and if Trusty isn't starting at one of the 3 center back spots after they shipped 8, there are serious questions to be asked. I mean, I think a new manager might be brought in, because I don't know how you can survive an 8-0 loss without getting a sack, especially since they only have 1 point on the season so far. But I don't know what the new philosophy might be, but he has to be starting for them after that performance. I mean, it's not like he could do any worse, really. So you might as well give him a chance. I mean, you made him a big profile signing. He could have just gone back to the championship where he was so loved. So you brought him in for a reason. Why not play him? I think he will start next weekend, and I think he will impress. And then for my sleeper candidate, this isn't really a sleeper kind of player. I mean, I'm kind of cheating here, but it's Ricardo Pepi. Like you mentioned earlier in the video, I think it's nice that he's getting results with his limited minutes. Maybe a super sub role is best for him, but I do think he's going to start midweek. They have 2 games this week. One midweek, I think it's Wednesday against Go Ahead Eagles. I mean, it's a pretty weak opposition in all honesty, and I think they'll use it as a chance to rotate a little bit. Maybe Malik would be in there if he actually wakes up on time. But I think it'll be a chance. I don't know if he's actually had a start yet in the Eredivisie, so it would be a good opportunity for him to get one there. And who knows, maybe he'll capitalize on it. I think he will. Maybe get another goal. And honestly, I mean, Luke de Jong, he's a legend for the club, but he hasn't been scoring that much recently. So if Pepe does get the start midweek and impresses, maybe he could finally take that spot.
Yeah, definitely hoping for Pepe to be able to carve out a spot this season. I think it can be done. It can be done. And yeah, my pick's going to be Musa, the main one, because I think that he's going to get minutes. I don't know if he's going to start, but I think he will get minutes. And I'm really high on him after seeing him perform really well. So good on the ball, so good defensively, versatile. And I used to give him a little bit of hate for last season. I thought he was atrocious in some games, but really high on Musa. I think that he will start. Really happy for him. So he's on my stock watch. And for my sleeper pick, I'm going for a domestic player. Tolkien again did really well this week, and he's going to play Chicago. They can't defend really. I mean, let in a lot of goals. I think that he should probably have a bit of freedom there. And I'm going to mention another left back. I'm going to mention Lund as well, or Johnson, as people call him in Italy. He's going to play Venezia. I know Venezia. I know our weak spots, and I think that Zampano as a right back, as much as I like him, he leaves a lot of space behind, and for him to defend, I think he'll be fine against Johnson, and Johnson might not even play. He had a bit of a knock, so I think that Lund's going to have a good match, regardless of if Palermo win or not against Venezia. So he's my sleeper pick alongside Tolkien. So all of a sudden we have left back depth, maybe. Who knows? I think it's really nice. But yeah, thank you very much, Braden. Thank you very much for everyone who watched the video this long. We're getting a few new subs. We'd like to see that. So please make sure to like, comment, share with your friends as much as you can, and players who are going to be on your stock watch for the week. Thank you very much. We'll see you next time.